Hello again. Cult Escape Chapter 1, called A Remote Control, What Is That? And in this short chapter, I just wanted to give a flavour of what it was like for me, incarcerated by a man's religion, but then venturing out into the big, bad, wonderful world for the first time. So, a remote control, what is that? I asked the shop assistant. It looked to me like a futuristic tool for a spacecraft. Fortunately, there was only a few buttons I had to master: on, off, program, volume and mute. Nowadays, 3-year-olds know how to operate a television, but it wasn't until I was 22 when I was first exposed to this modern world and the pipeline of filth, which is what we were told a TV was growing up. I had just escaped from the exclusive Brethren cult. It was 1988, and I was to enter another world of media, sport, music and entertainment, things which we had been taught were evil and of the devil. I remember walking into my first restaurant, Uncle Sam's on Renshaw Street, Liverpool. I had no idea what was about to happen. I was approached by a man called a waiter who asked me how many of me was there. Just me, I said, looking behind me just in case. He led me to a table and pulled out a chair for me. Is this all right, he asked. It is fine, I said, coughing as the smoke from a couple on the next table filled my lungs. As I looked around, I realised that what I was doing was normal to everyone else, but to me, it was like going into a very foreign country for the first time. I had heard of menus before, but I'd never seen one in my life. There wasn't so much choice. I had been used to meat and 3 veg all my life, and here was a huge selection of food called starters, mains and desserts to choose from. I went for corn on the cob with butter, polla alla crema, and a banana dessert loaded with cream and fruit. Then I sat there just being waited on hand and foot. I remember a tramp looked through the window at me. What was he thinking, I thought? Has he ever been in a restaurant? I felt quite posh, actually. I was dining. I was eating in the same room as worldly people, and I wouldn't have to do the dishes. You see, growing up, we were not allowed literally to eat food under the same roof as anyone else who wasn't in our group. It was forbidden, strictly forbidden. It was called the eating issue. And here I was, eating in a crowded room. It felt amazing, actually. My previous 22 years seemed like light years away from where I was now, even though a few days before I had been sitting in an exclusive Brethren meeting, my escape route on the verge of being put into action. Born into the closed confinements of a religious group that enforced a separation from evil doctrine, I had embarked on an adventure of a lifetime, had now been cut off from all my friends and family, had risked everything in the pursuit of freedom and expressing the me inside that wanted to get out and live. And it felt flipping amazing. When you take a child and train him up in the extreme belief system which continues the family tradition, teach him that everyone apart from us is wrong, we alone are right, you create a them and us culture so that you don't fit in anywhere apart from being with the members of your own group, you end up like a screwed up child like me. I grew up into a clone of the dictates of a man who didn't know me, had never met me, but insisted that his 45,000 followers should conform to his laws, his rules and his regulations. Dare to cross the line, and all remaining members were told to separate themselves from you and have nothing more to do with you for life, if necessary, unless you came under the laws again. His laws were always changing. Whenever they did, the justification was that God had turned a corner. Without questioning was forbidden too. We all swallowed his hallowed instructions, hook, line and sinker. I once saw our beloved brother, the man of God, the leader of the recovery of the truth, the elect vessel. Cult leaders tend to have lots of names. I was 11 and my dad and I were invited to an evening meeting in Sheffield to go and see him. It was the same day that I had seen, that morning, Queen Elizabeth on her Jubilee tour to Liverpool in 1977. That day, as I told people since, as I used to tell people, I had seen the Queen and the King the same day. About 500 invited members sat silently for an hour waiting for him to arrive. He always kept people waiting. I can't tell you the excitement I felt, how privileged I was. He was a pig farmer from Nitchie, North Dakota, infirm in his latter years. He arrived in a wheelchair, and for an hour I sat transfixed as I saw a man who I was groomed to believe was the universal leader, the spiritual descendant of Paul the Apostle. It once occurred to me, he wasn't the solar system leader or the earthly leader. His title, the title he had, was the universal leader. The atmosphere was thick with reverence, and I believe that if he had told us all to commit suicide, we would have done without hesitation. He didn't go that far, but the separating of families that he preached and enforced to me is on the same level. He killed families. I know what it is like for my family to be separated and destroyed by cultic law. Little did I know that many gurus, teachers and leaders of many religions are also revered and followed, no matter what they decide their followers should do. Maybe you're in one now, following a leader or a guru. I didn't know that 40,000 religious denominations all have one thing in common. They believe they are all right. I didn't know that the rule system that I grew up under meant that over half of all the families in the exclusive brethren were split through his laws. I didn't know that this rule system that I grew up under meant that over half of all families were split through his laws. I didn't know that 30 years later I would be writing a book and a resource creating awareness of what can happen if you were to join a religious cult. And here's the book. There's a website as well. I must say this whole subject is not all grim news. In fact, it is far more about the joy of awakening to the reality that freedom is for anyone who pursues it. The freedom to live and love all without that wretched judgment of one another. Yes, learn about avoiding some of the minefields in this life, but mostly about getting our broken wings healed and learning to fly, then soar, then able to see just how beautiful this world really is, with people who all really want the same thing, which is love. In this first chapter, I just wanted to give a flavour of what it was like for me, incarcerated by a man's religion, but then venturing out into the big, bad, wonderful world for the first time, as I said before. The rest of the book goes into the graphic details, some gory, some shocking, some just weird, but mixed in with parents who loved me, the struggle to escape, some massive life lessons, and ending that is all we need. So, thank you for listening. Next week, the chapter 2 is called A Historic Overview of the Exclusive Brethren, a chapter which I find very boring, and you might like to give that a miss, or you might like to learn a bit about the context of it. Cheers.